Okay. Over the weekend, I posted this video. Apologies for not doing one of these updates in a while, but things have been pretty crazy. We moved to Germany. We've lived in several different places since we've been here, and we are just now getting settled. I'll be posting some other videos and updates and stuff about that later. I think Melissa's got a blog post up about some of the apartments. Should be coming up. But let's kind of ignore that for now. Let's talk about this gorgeous weather. I mean, it is beautiful. It's nice and cool out. The wind has a nice crisp note to it. The leaves are changing, and it's a really beautiful time of year. I mean, it's fest beer season, all right? So tomorrow, Melissa and I are heading to Stuttgart. We're gonna check out their beer fest that's going on. And then this coming weekend, we're heading down to Munich for Oktoberfest. So stay tuned for videos for both of those. Right. So we get up Sunday morning and everything's all good to go. I had coffee, had some food, got everything around, and headed down to the train station. Now, we were originally gonna park at the Lily, but we decided to go around and park at a different spot. Not a big deal, but it kind of plays into something that happened later, so keep that in mind. We did park at a different parking lot, and yeah. So we get on our train, and we make our way down to Stuttgart. Now, I thought we were in a quiet car, so I did not get any of the camera gear out, and I kind of regret that because we passed through some fog banks for a while, and I was like, well, kind of glad I didn't. But then we came out of the fog bank, and this is where I would have showed this awesome, beautiful view of coming around, and there was a bridge and the Rhine River and smoke on the water kind of thing. Oh, it's gorgeous. Just trust me on it. It was absolutely stunning. Wait, no, it was terrible. It was the weather was bad the whole way, and there was no way. There was nothing to see. Nothing to see. We'll just move on. So we get to Stuttgart. We get off the train. We catch our connecting train to take us downtown, basically, right near where the festival grounds were. And I'm all excited, man. I got my gimbal all set. I got everything ready to go. We walk up, and the first thing the guy tells us, he's looking at everything. He's like, no Flasche. I'm like, okay, no problem. We'll take our water bottles and we'll finish the water off and we'll put them in this cart right here. Good to go. And then one of the other guys is like, Kein Kamera. Say what? Now, for those of you who don't speak German, Kein Kamera means no cameras. Let that sink in for just a minute. Yeah, so if you're thinking the same, if you're thinking, well, does that mean no cell phones and everything? I don't know. But he was adamant, Kein Kamera. So I'm like, okay, fine. We turn around, we walk over to this one spot, we dismantle everything, I take my mic off, I do everything, and we head back. And the guy looks in my bag and he's like, Kein Kamera. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So they get somebody else to come up. And he basically says, well, no cameras are allowed inside the festival grounds. Which at this point, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense at all. I've never heard of this where they're so adamant that no one can bring any stuff in. So why is this really a thing? Well, apparently it was. So he's like, we can take all of our gear and head back to the train station and basically put things in lockers. So we walk back to the train station and we look around for a while and we don't see lockers. Don't see them at all. So finally we come around this one corner and there they are. Okay, fine. Well, you would think. But the problem was they weren't working. We, reading the directions and we're pushing buttons and we're trying to get the doors to open and none of the doors are open. We could see a few in use, but the rest of them, I don't know. It was weird. It was like this, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So another group of people show up and they're looking and they're like, the lockers weren't working and we're going through the directions and everything. And they're like, okay. So they decide that they're going to look for another set of lockers. Well, I didn't realize they were looking for another set of lockers at first. I thought they were looking for somebody to go talk to. So I followed them And then we see the other set of lockers and the same problem. No keys, nothing. I'm like, this does not make any sense at all. So I asked Melissa, I said, well, did he mean for us to go back to the express train station? So we get back on the train to go to the main train station, and we're looking around and I don't see any lockers at all. I mean, at all, none. I'm like, well, this is kind of weird. This doesn't make any sense at all. And no lockers, whatever. So I don't know. And we find a guy, right? And who works there, and he's like, we ask him, and he's like, well, there are lockers, but they're kind of a ways away. But he says, he's pretty much indicated they were broken. I'm like, well, this isn't really a good thing. So at this point, we're both fed up. We're both tired. We're like, well, not really tired. We were just more frustrated than anything. Because it was a longer train ride for us to get down to Stuttgart than we had hoped. There was a slight delay, and we got there in about 3 hours versus about an hour and 45 to 2. So Melissa found a place we could, go to try to salvage the day. We're going to go to maybe the Paulaner restaurant that's down there. But it's like, well, why would we come all the way down here for lunch? This doesn't make any sense. So she gets on the website, and she looked at the prohibited items list. And nowhere on the prohibited items list does it say anything about cameras or things like gimbals. Okay? And for reference, let me show you what I'm talking about. This is the camera gimbal. Okay? So I'm trying to do this as best I can. But my camera would go right here. In this little spot right here. Okay, I'd show you the camera. It's on the tripod. It's a little Z30. You can look it up. But my camera was on this. I had my microphone on there for getting the ambient audio, just so I can get some of the cool sounds and everything like that. Let me set this down real quick. Okay, so all fine and dandy. Nothing like that on the list. So we're like, well, So she gets on the phone. She calls somebody. And they're like, hey, yeah, small cameras are allowed, but no professional cameras. Like, well, what exactly does that mean? Does my Z30 count as a professional camera? My D810 I could see there being issues with. I mean, it's a full-frame DSLR. I'm not running around with like one of the big cinema cameras or anything, so this should be okay. So we head back. We go to a different gate, and we walk up. And the lady looks and she goes, wanted to see the camera. So I pull it out and she's like, yeah, the camera's fine. Then they see the gimbal and they're like, that can't come in. I'm like, well, why? And she says, professional. I'm like, I don't know what that means. This is still not registering, like why it would be such an issue. So we talked for a few minutes and she's like, as long as it stays in the bag, we're okay. So we get everything around. We're able to get into the festival grounds. And of course, at this point, all we want is a beer and some food. So we head to the first tent. And I got pictures of the beer we got. I didn't get pictures of the food we got. And I think I got a video of a band kind of walking around. I'll put those up on the screen if I do. And if those turned out pretty well. If they didn't, I apologize. But at this point, I was really reluctant to pull any gear out because they were so, like I don't know why they were so hung up on the gear and why it was a problem. We didn't pay to get in. You could just show up and walk in, and it wasn't a problem. These places were packed, and we ended up going back towards the first tent we had beer at. And, this place was a lot of things to see. There was like horse-drawn carriage sitting out there, and each horse had different ribbons on. Each ribbon had the name of the different breweries that were there. It was great. It was wonderful. So we ended up hitting 2 more tents, and then we ended up making our way back. Now, I will point out real quick, the vibe at each tent was different. So the very first tent we went to, the music was more of the I guess, traditional type Oktoberfest music you would hear. And then the second tent had a more like, I don't know, it was kind of a weird, the music was very similar, but it had more like an edgy kind of electro techno kind of vibe to it. It was kind of neat, more upbeat. There's a lot more younger people there. The first tent was also less crowded. I think it's because the other ones were closer to the main entrance, which may be why they were so packed. And then the final tent we went to was more, still upbeat. They played more the more modern stuff, and still great times. And like the vibe was just really fun. It was, people were up on the not on the tables. They don't want you standing on the tables, but you could stand on the benches for the fest tables. And I mean, traditional gear and just amazing. Great time. I highly recommend it if you're ever in Stuttgart or in the area and that particular festival is going on. Definitely go. It's worth checking out. I am really, really interested to check out how that compares to Munich Oktoberfest, which we're going to this weekend. It was getting on time for us to leave, and we just made our way back to the train station. Pretty much the ride back was uneventful. The train was booking. We were doing about 200 to 210 kilometers an hour, about 120 to right around 100 and closer to maybe between 120, 130 in freedom units. Yeah, smooth, fast, great. We get back to the car and we got a parking ticket. Yeah. We were accidentally parked in a handicap spot. Here in Germany, over by the train station, we got to be careful because they don't really have the blue signs on the ground. There was a van obstructing one of the signs that we did not see. But, I mean, in the end, it's really not that bad. So yeah, we're going to Oktoberfest this weekend, and we've got a lot we're planning on doing, including going to Oktoberfest itself as the final weekend for this year. And then we're going to try to go to both Hofbrauhaus and Augustina, which I'm really looking forward to both. Never been, so, I mean, you've got to try it out. We're going to also take in some of the sights. This time, when I go to the festival, I'm not bringing the gimbal. In fact, I may not bring the Z30 with me to the festival grounds itself. I'll probably just shoot everything on that on my cell phone, which hopefully the video quality will be okay. And then everything else we do, all the other touristy stuff we'll do, I'll shoot on this. So hopefully we got something, and I'll be able to post that this coming week.